Hey, friend, Chris here from LogicProRules.com, the website that helps you get the most you can out of Apple's Logic Pro. Today, I want to show you how to pack your own take folders in Logic. If you're not familiar, the take folder system is this amazing tool that Logic Pro provides immediately as soon as you start recording a new take onto a single track lane. You just record take after take, and they're compiled into this folder that you can then expand, and then using the quick swipe comping feature, you can just make selections with your mouse. And this will be combined into your perfect or composite take that you'll hear back. So I was chatting with a friend who was here at my studio the other day. He was watching me use take folders and quick swipe comping. And as he watched, he said, you know what? Even after years of using Logic Pro, I don't use take folders. I just create a new track and record a new take onto a new track. And this blew my mind because I was imagining him just creating take and track after track, recording, and then having to mute and solo between 15, 20, 30 different track lanes, trying to find the best bits, and then having to manually chop it up and add crossfades. And there's just a better way. So let me show you right now. On screen, I have 3 sets of takes that were recorded by a drummer remotely on his end. This buddy of mine, we're actually compiling all the recordings. They're doing the recording and I'll be mixing the song. And he hired a drummer out of state who has been sending takes back and forth. And interestingly enough, everybody who's working on the project uses Logic Pro. So I'm not sure why we're not just sending the project back and forth, but the drummer is sending, batches of takes. That's A-okay. But I like to combine these takes into take folders so I can easily comp together my favorite sections. So first, I'll show you how to combine a take folder if you're working with a single track. So let's say a vocal or an acoustic guitar, and you don't need this complex scenario of multiple tracks that are all part of the same instrument. But I'll also show you considerations when it comes to groups of tracks that need to be comped together. We can take a quick listen to even one of these group of tracks so we have an idea what we're working with. This is the first downbeat right here that goes into a verse section. All right, sounds fantastic. You can clearly see that we have a floor tom, kick, overhead left and right, rack tom, a room microphone, snare top and bottom, and a sub kick. First things first, we got to make sure that every one of these takes lines up. Even if you're working with a single vocal that will be made up of various takes, you want to make sure that all of your takes line up at the appropriate bar or beat, because the first downbeat of this first set of tracks lines up with bar 8. But if we go down here to take 4, the first downbeat of the main section of the verse is pretty close to bar 16, but not quite. And then with take 1 down here, it lines up with about bar 15, a little before. So if I just dig in and start compiling take folders, I'm not going to be able to comp between these different takes because they all line up at different moments. So I'm going to move every one of these takes just by shift and clicking. I'm going to move this set of takes. This first downbeat of the verse section lines up more or less with bar 16. So if I zoom in, looking pretty good. I could be a little ahead, a little behind, or I could try lining up right to that beat. I prefer to line up regions to the grid. So if we go to the front end here, but it's not quite snapping exactly to the beat, so I'm going to go to the snap drop-down menu, and I'm going to make sure to snap regions to absolute value. So now, if I zoom back out, back in here, I can feel it clicking to that beat or that beat. So it's a little ahead, a little behind. It's entirely up to you. Maybe I'll try lining up right to bar 16 because this is a good drummer. He's done a great job of lining up more or less with the grid. Okay, so next we're going to select the next group and we're going to do the same thing. That's the downbeat. I want to line up with bar 16. So let's line it up right there. All right. And then with this last set, I'm just going to click the track header, hold shift, and click the top track header to select all of these tracks in one go. The downbeat in this case is down by bar 8. So I need to move this all the way down, right about there-ish. All right, cool. So now everybody lines up more or less. We can even use the playhead to take a look around. If we go further down, we're more or less there. Perfect. So before I dig into group scenarios, let's just focus on combining the room microphones here into a single take folder. And I'm going to move them to the top. And we'll zoom in. All right, so I have room take 4, and room take 1. At this point, with these 3 regions selected, I'm going to right-click on any one of them and go down to Folder, and I'm going to choose to pack the take folder. All right, we now have all 3 takes in the same take folder. You can see there's the room microphone, room take 4, room take 1. At this point, if I solo the room, let's take a listen, and then I'll use quick swipe comping to quickly edit a composite take. Cool, so we have some crash hits there. Let's see what else we have for this section. I'm going to hover my mouse over the take that's in gray because it's not the active take, and I'm going to click, hold, and drag while my mouse cursor is this line icon. And let's hear what take 4 has for this section. Okay, I'm going to tighten this up. I'll click, hold, and drag on the boundaries of the take. Cool, and you can always zoom in and fine tune further. So we're right before the transient. That one sounded pretty good. Beautiful, and down here we may have a couple different options for fills. Okay, so there's no fill there, but clearly there is one right here. Oh, that's pretty cool. Let's check out take 1. I like take 4 the best. All right, so clearly I'm just digging in and I'm making these edits. I can just hover my mouse over an inactive take. When my mouse cursor shows this line icon, I can click to switch to a different take, right? I can adjust take boundaries for both the left and right. If I hold Shift, I can adjust the boundary and completely omit certain sections, or move the section of a take from left to right just by hovering my mouse till I see this double arrow icon. Beautiful, right? So I'm going to switch everything back to the previous take, and I'm going to unpack this take folder. By clicking on this drop-down menu that lists comp A, I'm going to unpack to independent tracks. All right, so I now have the comp that was created between these 3 takes, plus the original room take 4, and room take 1. So I took these 3 separate takes for the room microphone, compiled them into a take folder, made some comps, and then unpacked them back to separate tracks. Now, a lot of folks tend to unpack or flatten take folders. So if we click on that drop-down menu again, I can either flatten and merge, or unpack to independent tracks. Personally, I never use these functions, and I just want to point that out because, I don't know, there's not a scenario in my mind where flattening a take folder is a good idea. And what do I mean by flatten a take folder? Well, if I make a couple selections on different takes, and then I flatten. All right, so I have this composite take. It's been bounced in place essentially, but where did my take folder go? Right? It's gone. But in the event that I have to go back and recomp because let's say the vocalist remembers a better line somewhere, or, we just want to see what options we have. Well, now I have to dig into the project browser and start finding the original takes and create a new take folder again. So instead, I just prefer to leave the take folder as it is. And if I want to further edit or if I want to commit to it, I just bounce in place. So I'll just use Control and B to open the bounce region in place dialog. And boom, I'll just create a bounce. From there, I'll power it down and hide the comp so that it's always in the background. If I show hidden tracks, boom, it's right there. And I can go back, I can unmute it, and I can adjust the comp as needed if I need to. Maybe our drummer doesn't like this take, he likes this take. Okay, no problem. It's still there. I can still use it. Now let's talk about when you are going to be comping multiple tracks simultaneously. So the edits should be identical between the different tracks. In this case, obviously, I have multi-track drums. So I have a floor tom track, kick, overhead left and right, so on and so forth. In this event, I want to make sure that my comps are identical between the room take folder, the floor tom take folder, the overhead take folders. They need to be identical. Notice I have take room, take 4 room, and take 1 room. If I select all 3 and then pack into a take folder, they reflect that order. So we have room, take 4, take 1. If I undo and switch the order to take 4, take 1, and room, let's select all 3 and pack into a take folder. And if we pop it open, we see room, then take 1, then take 4. So the order is going to matter here. So I want to make sure that all my take folders, the takes are in the same order. So I have room, then take 4, then take 1. Floor, then take 4, then take 1. So I've color coded these to make it easy, but that's the goal. I want to set red, then blue, then purple. I'm going to compile all my take folders right now. I'll be speeding up the video so it's not too long to watch. All right, my take folders are packed. If we pop them open, we can see the original name, take 4, take 1, and this will be reflected in every take folder for my drum group. Meaning all these empty track lanes where takes used to live, I can just select and delete. All right, now I want to be able to make some edits to my drum group, and I want the edit to be identical across all the different drum tracks. This is incredibly important when you're comping something like a multi-mic instrument. Notice if I quick swipe comp this section of the room, the edit is not represented across all the different drum tracks. And that's because I need to group my drum tracks together first. So I'll undo, open the mixer, select all of the drum channel strips, and go to this group field right here and create a new group. All right, the group section in the inspector pops open and it immediately prompts me to name the group. So I'm going to just call it drums. Next up, I want to go into the settings drop-down menu here in the group section, and I'm going to enable this option called editing selection. Now, if I start comping my drums, all of these regions on the different drum tracks are selected. I can try deselecting and just selecting the floor tom. All the regions are selected because they're part of a group. If I now start to comp, check it out. My comping is still not being applied across the group. It's just the room microphone. But let's say I open the floor tom. We see some comps occurring on the overhead left and right, but not on the kick or the snare bottom track. What the heck is going on? Well, we need to take a look at the length of all the different takes inside the take folders. Starting at the top, if we look at the very beginning, we can see, okay, this room take occurs right before bar 9. And if we take a look at the floor, yeah, it's about the same. The kick, about the same. If we take a look at take 2, starts around there. Yeah, looks about the same. So let's now put our attention on the end of the takes, which happen to not be the same between all these different take folders. So see, the first take for the room ends right between bars 103 and 105. But the first take of the floor tom ends way before, between bars 97 and 99. And for the kick, it ends between 103 and 105. It's unfortunately a little shorter than the room take. If we take a look at take 2, you can see take 2 is not identical and take 3 is not identical. This is the problem, is that I'm comping within folders that don't line up. So I need to undo the comping that I've done, and we need to adjust the end of all of these take folders so they line up together. So I'm basically going to look for the shortest take between all of these take folders. So I'm going to line up my playhead to find the shortest take. So right about there, and I'll just scan down, just scrolling. All right, so that seems to be the shortest length. Let me now use the playhead to split these take folders. With the playhead at its current position, a little after bar 97, I'm going to hold Command and press T. So I've now split these take folders into two. With the selected bit, where there's no real audio going on, it's just empty bits at the end of these takes, I'm going to press delete. All right, so now if I open the room and make an adjustment, we can see it's applied to the room, the floor tom, the kick, the overhead left, overhead right, rack, snare bottom, snare top, and sub kick. So now I can start comping to my heart's content across the group here. Doesn't matter which track I'm working with. I can comp as needed and it's applied across the group. And it's way faster and easier than having tons of track lanes, each with their own separate take. So I hope this video was helpful for you. If it was, as always, please subscribe to Wide Logic Pro Rules here on the channel and on the website. And be sure to check out the description below where I always include links to PDFs, guides, and templates to help you in your journey with Logic Pro. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you later. Take care.